most humiliating night of her life, the Earl had shown her kindness. She'd tripped on the dance floor and landed among the musicians in the orchestra, sending their sheet music flying. Her dance partner had frozen, aghast. Other guests had snickered. Only Lord Ravensport had stepped forward and offered his hand, effortlessly pulling her to her feet. Somehow that simple contact, his large gloved hand enveloping hers, had managed to be simultaneously reassuring and thrilling. The brief encounter had meant a great deal to her, and yet she wasn't at all certain that the Earl knew her name. The fact that the Earl happened to be handsome was immaterial, entirely irrelevant really. But if his devil-may-care smile made Fiona's stomach flutter now and again, she saw no harm in it. She deserved to glean something from the deal, after all. And what girl wouldn't enjoy having a tall, athletic, ruggedly attractive husband, at least in name? It wasn't as though she intended to give him her heart. Nevertheless, she'd enjoy sketching him. One day. She didn't yet know him well enough to do him justice. Oh, she could recall his physical traits all too easily. The dark hair that spilled across his forehead, the slightly crooked nose and the boxer's physique. But in spite of his self-assured demeanour, he was more guarded than most, reluctant to reveal who he truly was. She, of all people, respected that. Fiona tapped a fingernail on her gleaming mahogany desk, determined to forge ahead. How precisely did one broach the subject of marriage with a relative stranger? Shrugging, she dipped the nib of her quill and let the ink flow. "Dear Lord Ravensport, we've not been formally introduced, but you may remember me from the Millbrook Ball, where I tripped during the cotillion and tumbled headfirst into the musicians, knocking the violinist clear off his chair. Would you consider binding yourself to me in matrimony for the rest of your natural life?" A bit too honest, perhaps, and too direct. Miss Haywinkle would be utterly appalled by Fiona's lack of decorum. Though the thought of shocking her former headmistress cheered her slightly, the latter would never do. Sighing, she tossed it in the dustbin, withdrew a clean sheet from the desk drawer, and began writing anew. She took the most polite and businesslike approach she could manage, given the rather forward nature of her request. "Dear Lord Ravensport, I am writing to you with a proposal that is unconventional but quite sincere. After much deliberation, I've reached the conclusion that each of us would benefit greatly if we were to ally ourselves through marriage. I possess a very large dowry which I'm certain you would find useful. In addition, I would promise to be a very undemanding wife. Indeed, you would be free, nay, encouraged to pursue your own interests. All I would ask in return is that you allow me to retain a small property with a cottage in Cornwall, £5,000 for my own use, and a reasonable yearly allowance. The stipulated monies shall be mine to spend as I please, without any explanation or interference. I do have one last requirement. We must wed within a fortnight. I understand that this may seem rash, but since our union would merely be one of convenience, I see no reason to delay. Please consider my proposal and provide your response at the first opportunity. Sincerely, Miss Fiona Hartley." In the end, she was quite satisfied with the result, and yet her hands trembled as she folded the sheet and melted the sealing wax. Once sent, the letter could not be retrieved. The words could never be taken back. There was no way to know how Lord Ravensport would react to the deal she'd proposed. He might tell all his friends and make her the laughingstock of the ton, or he might refuse to dignify her proposal with a response. But proposing to him was her best hope of sparing her sister Lily untold ridicule and pain. Fiona had no choice but to try. A knock on her bedchamber door made her jump guiltily. She quickly hid the letter in the folds of her skirt. "Come in," she said, attempting a breezy tone. Her sprightly maid, Mary, bustled into the room, and Fiona released the breath she'd been holding. "Pardon the interruption, Miss Fiona,"